Welcome to the Business Blast podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Wagner. This episode is brought to you by Authors Unite. Authors Unite provides you with all the resources you need to become a successful author. You can learn more about Authors Unite and join the free community at authorsunite.com. Now, let's jump into the episode. All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Business Blast podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Wagner. Today I have Nakya Thomas with us. She is a full-time college student at Duquesne University. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Of course. We'll jump in. The first question I have for you is, what is the best story from your life that has an underlying valuable message?
So I was thinking about this one, and I'm like, I don't have any exciting stories, but I found one finally. But the one time my sophomore year, I had this really terrible roommate. Things got really shaky, and long story short, I ended up killing her goldfish. And it was really bad. I was like really, pushed to the edge, and it was such a terrible situation. But what I learned from that situation was that, you shouldn't let people, push you to their limits and, push you to a point where you feel like you have to retaliate in a violent manner and, use violence to, hurt people. Like it's never worth it. Even though I killed her fish, just because she was messing with me, I still felt terrible after the fact. I still felt like, wow, why would I do something like that? That's not even me. That's not my character. So, that's the best thing I learned from that situation was just like to never let anyone take you out of your character because it's like literally never worth it.
Yes, I agree. Keep the fish alive. The next one I have for you is, what is the most valuable piece of information that we should know that's within your expertise or industry?
I would say the most valuable piece of information within my expertise is that, which I can't stress enough, is the importance of education. I think it's very important, and how we educate our youth is even more important. I believe that youth of color, they've been robbed of their basic rights as human beings when it comes to the education system within our nation. So if anybody would take anything from me, what my passion is, what's the most valuable piece of information, like you said, is how important education is and how it can be used as a tool to really change things.
And what's your best piece of overall business advice? So not necessarily industry specific.
Overall business advice, I would say, is to, always remain true to yourself and, have faith in God. And remember that as long as there's a will, there's a way. You can accomplish anything you desire. You just have to connect to that feeling and know that you can do whatever you want and really stick to it.
And if you could, I know you're young, but if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that be?
I would tell high school Nakya to always focus on herself. Leave the boys alone. You got time for that. Really just be very self-centered, not in a way that, you're not being considerate of others, but self-centered in the fact that you have enough love to give yourself before you can give it to anyone else. And, just save yourself the headache, really, with guys and, drama, and really just be about your business and your money and, yourself.
And in your opinion, what's the key to happiness?
I think the key to happiness is love. Loving what you do, loving yourself, loving others, loving God, loving, the person that you're becoming, loving your process. Just literally love. If you don't love anything, you won't be happy.
And what is the best book that you've read, and what was the number one thing you learned from that?
The best book that I've read, I haven't read a lot. I need to read more. A book that I really like is a book called Push Out. It's by, I have to look at it, actually. I have it in my bag. I don't know the author's name, actually, at the moment. But
no worries.
It's about the criminalization. Oh, it's by Monique Morris, the criminalization of Black girls in schools, and it's just a different perspective on what how Black women are treated in this world and in the education system. Being a Black woman, that's obviously something that I'm very passionate about. So,
and what is your favorite quote and why?
I think my favorite quote would be that It used to be a wise man learns from the mistakes of others, and a fool by his own. But I kind of like got away from that because I feel like sometimes you have to be a fool in order to learn from yourself, you know? So I guess I would say now that my favorite quote is that, you know, people don't do, the best things happen to people who do the best with what happens to them, if that makes sense. So it's not about, you know, what happens to you, just how you respond to what happens.
Yes. And thank you so much for coming on. The last question I have for you before we let you go is, where is the best place for people to find you online?
I'm on LinkedIn as Nakya Thomas, Instagram, Nakya with 3 A's at the end, and Facebook, Nakya Thomas again. So any 3 of those platforms. I respond fast. I have no life.
Perfect. Thanks again for hopping on. We appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you for having me. I'm very grateful.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.